and that's the red-winged blackbird, Agalius Vinicius, bringing us in. Welcome to the Dissectify podcast, the show that gets you curious about the wild world right outside your window. I'm your host, Nicholas Sines, bringing you content late every Tuesday night, far too late every Tuesday night. I'm very tired. The holidays are taking it out of me, so we're going to give it a good go tonight, but it's going to be a bit of a ramble. Last episode, we talked about the selfish gene theory, which is a very heavy episode, so today we'll try to keep it a little bit lighter, at least technically lighter. But yeah, the selfish gene theory is a really big, I think a really influential idea for me. Saying that the genes are a driving force for how every living thing acts, which I think is a great lens to view nature in. Really kind of like flips everything on its head. So check that out if you're interested. That was episode 3. And let's start off with a nature tip. So as far as plants and mushrooms, something that has always helped me, I go out and find species, and I think it's a really great, fun thing to do. Let's say you're on a hiking trail, or you're on a beach, or you're wherever you're walking, you're looking for nature. When you go one direction on a trail, and you're scanning the ground looking for these things, mushrooms, flowers, really like just look, come back the same direction, same trail, just turn around, go back. Especially if you're doing like a shorter hike or a walk. You're going to notice things that you didn't see because it's behind a rock or a log or a bush or a tree or something. You're seeing things from a different angle, and even though you walked right past it, it was right there, and you get to see things that you wouldn't have noticed had you not done that. So I would say don't feel bad about walking. You don't have to do the whole trail. You don't have to do a massive hike to go out and find cool things. You just have to get into nature, and even if it's a short walk or a hike, you can just double back, come back the way you came, and you're sure to find something you didn't see on your way back. Yeah. So that's our tip. And like a calf or something, right? If you're like a mountain lion, gotta eat. You're not gonna go after the big one with the horns. You're probably gonna go after the smaller deer. So yeah, I would say nature is not nice, and humans have done a pretty good job of trying to remove ourselves from nature, at least as far as the negative aspects of it, right? So, and I don't think that's wrong. I would never argue that, oh yeah, people, we should throw away our medicine. We should, we should go marching into the bear's den. I'm not saying that. And we've done a pretty good job of removing ourselves. So, right, we have like agriculture to give ourselves enough food. We have medicine and vaccines to help reduce the risk of infection or getting rid of infection. And these are all good things, right? I don't think humans should suffer. I don't really want anything to suffer. I don't know. We've done a whole lot to really give ourselves like entertainment and like really ensure our own safety. And I would argue we could probably do a better job of sharing these, food and security and water and housing and all that with enough people, because it probably should get sorted out. But we've done a really good job of figuring out how to do these things and making sure that humans are safe and entertained and well fed and all these things. But I think we are heading into a world that is more artificial, right? Because I think there's money to be made if somebody can provide like a service or a product or a new novel thing to catch your interest. And that's not wrong. Maybe it's good even. I don't know. Maybe you don't want a whole bunch of bored people. It just seems like we're headed towards a more artificial world. Like, people are spending more time inside. They're not, seeing each other in person as much. If you had like a whole lot of entertaining things, but it was all indoors all the time, I think there would be a whole lot of really unhappy people, Like I think it's where we're supposed to be. Meaning, I think it does basically everybody a lot of mental health good to be outside, to just be in nature, like running creeks and waves and mountains and trees and bird calls and mushrooms and flowers. Like, it's all good. I mean, some of it, maybe most of it, could hurt you. Yeah, I mean, watch out, like a Stellar Jay. There's this, like, blue jay with, like, this black crest on its head, and I went to, like, a national park one time just taking pictures, and the dude's diving at my head. You believe it? The nerve. I'm there to appreciate nature, and he's trying to attack me. How ungrateful. Anyways, yeah, it's I don't know. Like, nature's not always nice, definitely, and sometimes it's even dangerous. But it just seems like there's something innate in humans that really need to at least get some exposure to nature. And I don't think it's even always noticed, right? I think a lot of times it's taken for granted, where somebody maybe has like breakfast outside or is just going for a walk or something, and they I think get like a lot of people get a mental health boost, but they don't really notice nature. You know what I mean? Like, it's there and it's making people happier to get the shade from the tree or feel the grass or see a flower or hear a bird or whatever. I think it's just kind of there and it makes people feel good, and I think that's about where most people stop thinking about it. But yeah, part of why I wanted to start this podcast was, well, let me see. So I had a botany professor, right? So he studied plants. And I kind of signed up for this class, and I didn't really think much of it. I was just like, okay, sure. Might be something kind of new, kind of weird. And up until that point, right, I was always into animals, and that's why I studied biology in college, and that lucrative major, really raking it in now. Yeah. So, yeah, I just kind of like impulse signed up for this class, and it was like arguably maybe the most transformative class that I took. Yeah, so that professor introduced me to iNaturalist, which was everybody here, if you're a listener on this podcast, iNaturalist, I think, is the place I'd recommend that you start. It's an app on your phone. You take a picture of whatever you're looking at, and it uses like image identification to say, like, based on your location and what you've taken a picture of, this is what we think it is. And then humans will come along and say, like, oh yeah, it's this species. So in that way, I think it really makes it easy for you to just see something you're interested in, you take a picture, send it in, and then you like slowly build up this logbook of species for you to see, and like you'll start to recognize and appreciate and learn about, and I think it's huge. I think iNaturalist is maybe the biggest innovation that's really helped people appreciate nature. So yeah, everybody here I would recommend, like, download the app. It's for Apple or Android, whatever. Download it, check it out. It's great. Right, the botany class. So he introduced me to iNaturalist. And also, like, one of the exam was to, like, learn so I guess there's, like, classifications, right? So there's species, which is, like, the individual organism level sort of a thing. Genus, which is a group of species. And there's family. So that's a really good way to learn plants, is to go by the families, because there's a lot of plants, but anyways, I digress. Part of his thing was, to make a very long circle back to what I was talking about, was he says, "Oh, look at this picture," right? And it's a picture of, I think, in like Africa, of like a leopard in a tree, and he asked the class like, "Oh, what do you notice?" And like basically everybody there said, "Oh, I noticed the leopard," right? Yeah, I think it's also worth noticing the tree. Really, actually, like worth noticing the tree. And I think maybe you're not interested, but I think it's different once you start learning about these things. You really start figuring out all the diversity that's actually there and why things are different, and yeah, it starts to become or actually seeing these things for the first time, right? Because before, a tree was a tree and a bird's a bird and it's just a flower. But once you start noticing the difference and really appreciating all the diversity that's going on, I think you really do, I don't know, like you can dive into this thing that's just really good for you. And arguably, I think basically anybody, like whether they know it or not, I don't think they want to live in a world without nature. And I'm telling you, the best kind of nature is actual nature, not like the extra showy plants that are put out, or I don't know, like all the stuff, all the showy things you see like in front of a building or whatever. Like they're pretty flowers, but I think there's like a real actual like a deep, like it's deeper. You can have a deep appreciation for understanding how these species have been around. They're still there. They will be there. Hopefully, they'll all remain there. But they interact. They depend on each other. They're different. They're not necessarily there to impress us, but they still have their own techniques to live. And they're not necessarily yelling their story at us, but if you take the time to notice, it's actually, I think, worthwhile. So let's continue on to Biota Beat. And this part is a little less rambly, I promise. So today we're going to be talking about Turtopsis dohrnii, which is the famous immortal jellyfish. That's what I said, immortal jellyfish. So it's a species that has gained notoriety for its unique ability to revert back to its juvenile form after reaching maturity. So this process is known as transdifferentiation. It allows the jellyfish to essentially restart its life cycle and avoid death. So this jellyfish was first discovered in the Mediterranean Sea in 1883, and it can be found in various other locations around the world. It's a very small jellyfish, so it's like 4.5 millimeters in diameter, so like half a centimeter. But still, it's got this incredible cycle, and it doesn't hurt that it's like a really simple animal. But it's a member of the hydrozoan class of jellyfish. Yeah, and what makes it so special is this ability to revert back to its juvenile form. So the way this happens is that the jellyfish transforms its cells into different types of cells, essentially allowing it to revert back to its youthful state. So these cells that were differentiated, right? So you'll have like stem cells or something, which basically are cells that haven't decided what kind of cell they're going to be yet. They haven't committed to specific like functional changes, right? So like you may have cells in your eye that are like there to detect light, or you have cells in your hand that are there to feel, right? Like your nerves or whatever. So, but all of these things require like different knobs to be turned, right? But once that happens, typically, well, especially for us, it's like once differentiation happens, they're locked into place. And I think scientists have tried to figure out like, well, how do you revert it? Because that may have some medicine implications if you were able to take some cells and then revert them back to like a stem cell and then use them some other way. maybe on like a burn or something like that, you could potentially take somebody's cells, make them into stem cells, and then like apply it or something. I'm not a doctor and don't claim to be one or play one on a podcast. Yeah, but so this jellyfish seems to be able to do this weird thing where it takes its cells and sort of reverts that differentiation back. And while the exact mechanism behind this process isn't really fully understood, scientists believe the jellyfish's ability to revert back to its juvenile form may be linked to its ability to control the expression of its genes. Right, like I was saying, this could have implications for regenerative medicine, yeah, and like rejuvenate cells in the body. But when we're talking about gene expression, so basically, right, you'll have like a stretch of DNA that does something, makes some protein or, yeah, makes something in the body, makes a protein that does something. It's a little chunk of stuff that its like physical form is built specifically to do some task, and it may be multiple tasks, or it may link up with something to do a task. Biology is messy, but basically it's a little lump of stuff in your body that your DNA encodes for, and then that protein goes off and does something that you probably want the protein to do. Maybe that's a future episode. Maybe there's some. Actually, there are some bad protein interactions. Maybe we'll talk about that later. Not this episode. Next, some other episode. But yeah, but like they're talking about the jellyfish's ability to change the expression of its genes. So one form of this is epigenetics. So basically, when DNA polymerase, I think it is, I should double check that before I start spouting stuff to you guys. It's been a long time since cell bio. Let's see, enzyme. I'm sure some of you, if I'm actually getting some listeners at this point, are like screaming, it's this protein, enzyme for making protein. Let's see. Proteinase, geez. You know what? I'm not even going to cut that. I'm going to leave it in. I ain't perfect. So yeah, basically, oh no, that's the enzyme for breaking down protein. Enzyme for making protein. RNA polymerase. Sorry, folks. So yeah, basically, there's transcription, translation, DNA to RNA, RNA to protein, and RNA polymerase is going to go on to the RNA to make the protein. But what we're talking about here is at the very first step, the transcription of the RNA from the DNA. It depends on how available the stretch of DNA is. So if it's in the case of epigenetics, and I'm sure there may be some other forms of gene expression, but in the case of epigenetics, literally, physically, the DNA is like more tightly coiled or less tightly coiled, like more open, more available for transcribing. So it'll make like more copies of whatever protein product. So that's what they're saying potentially here, is that this jellyfish is able to kind of like tune that, like turn it on and off in specific areas to change the amount of proteins and like the gene expression. So yeah, I thought that was pretty crazy. If I can find a picture, I'll put it in the YouTube video. But I'll put some links as well. Since it's holiday season, I'll say reindeer don't fly unless you throw them off a cliff. Right. So that is the podcast for today. Please leave a review wherever you're listening. Visit dissectify.com for more nature exploring tools. My Instagram @nicholas.signs can also be found there. Tag me in your nature photos. I'd love to see them. And remember, you live in a world with so many other species, so go out there and check it out. And iNaturalist, I'll say it a fourth time, iNaturalist is a great tool to use if you want to explore any branch of nature. So, yeah. Thanks for listening. Bye.